Hello, Bachelor Nation, and welcome to the Bachelor Forecast. I'm Brad Milkey. This is Emily Shapiro filling in for Mel Griffin, who's away on vacation this week. And this is a big day, you guys. It's getting serious in Switzerland. That is the name of this episode. And this, of course, is the show where we will break down last night's episode and tell you what to expect in your fantasy league as it comes up this week. And Emily started out with 30 people. We're down to 6 guys last night.
Finally down to 6. This is when the season gets good. We're done with the silly group dates. We're on to the serious one-on-one dates.
Yeah, it's actually getting very serious, and we could tell the moment Rachel walked into the room with these 6 guys all crammed into their little hotel room in Europe, and she said, listen, there's not going to be some rose ceremony. We're doing 3 one-on-one dates. We're doing 1 group date, and 2 of you are going to have to buzz off by the end of the episode.
And I think she picked her favorites for those one-on-one dates this week. We have Bryan, we have Dean, we have Peter. Yeah, those are her favorites.
Can we talk about how she didn't even give a shot to those guys that we were all wondering about? We were wondering about Matt. We were wondering about Adam. Who is Adam? What is Adam?
They've had no screen time the whole season, and I think that shows us that, I mean, they're filming this. The camera crews are there 24 hours a day. Yeah. It's only a 2-hour episode a week, so we don't know anything about these guys.
Is that why you, so that's, we'll get into this when we talk about the group date, but that, I assume that's why you think that she actually was even hanging out with Adam and Matt in the first place.
Right.
Because I literally did not know who Matt was until last night. It's very cold to snuggle up next to a robot when you're in bed with him. All right, well, let's talk about the dates then a little bit. She had her first one-on-one with Bryan. What did you think about it?
So I think Bryan is the winner. I think that's really, really clear at this point. I mean, she picked him for the fanciest day of the season, fancy sports car, expensive watch shopping. I mean, I think she knew she was picking him for a reason.
Yeah, can we talk about how not all one-on-one dates are created equal? Like, Bryan gets a watch, and Dean gets an hour at church and, like, hanging out with some old people afterwards. Like, what is that? Well, I mean, so Bryan, I think, you know, we have a clip actually here. So let's after Bryan goes out for his watch shopping, then he actually comes back and has a pretty serious conversation with Rachel, or at least she tries to get that out of him. So let's see what they had to say to each other.
I'm going to tell you a fear of mine.
A fear? Okay, what's your fear?
Which is me being very vulnerable. You are so charming, it scares me.
It scares you?
Yes.
It scares you?
It's scaring me that it's too good to be true.
Well, this is a fairy tale.
No.
Yes, it is.
This is not.
This is a fairy tale.
Then what happens when it's like real life?
Don't let it scare you. It's real. It's 1,000% real. I promise you, whenever you're weak, I'm going to be strong. And whenever I'm weak, I want you to be strong for me. So.
What makes you weak?
You and the knees.
This is the charming stuff I'm talking about.
I mean, what do you want me to say? You just set that up for me. You set that up on a silver platter for me.
So, Brad, to me it's clear that she is smitten with Bryan. The chemistry thing is undeniable, so to me, it doesn't matter. Everyone loves perfect Peter. I think the chemistry is there. I think she's going to pick Bryan.
Yeah, I've talked about how the face eating has continued throughout the season. The kisses from Bryan are absolutely disgusting, but she likes it. Like, she likes him. I don't know what's wrong with her for liking him, but she totally digs it.
But I want to ask you about this, because to me, that clip, he's hiding something. I think the way he's always turning the conversation to her, I was not following his explanation of the breakup with his last girlfriend.
Yeah,
What's
that was
your
a whole
take
thing.
on this?
Well, let me tell you a classic guy secret from any season of The Bachelor, and that is from The Bachelorette, rather, where the guy contestant, his job, and the good ones know this, the winners know this, is to go, yeah, here's like a one-sentence story about me, but girl, what about you? Like, what?
Yeah.
Do you get insecure? And every woman who's ever been The Bachelorette is like, yeah, I do get insecure now that you think about it. Like, that is his job. He knows, like, that is his game plan. He's sticking to it.
I think she loves giving the reins to the guy and not having the control anymore, because I think we saw also last night with Dean, she's kind of pressing him, she's instigating this conversation, trying to push him to open up. And with Bryan, she can just relax.
Yeah, and she does not like awkward silences, and she wants people to be able to carry their conversation. That seemed like an issue with Dean at some points. It has never seemed like an issue with Peter. And we saw this one-on-one date with Peter last night. They went dog sledding. Peter looked insanely cold wherever he went, but they ended up doing what they do best, which is like sharing their deep, dark emotions with each other. So let's take a look at Rachel here with Peter on their one-on-one.
Well, when is the last time you brought somebody home?
So the girl that I dated most recently, she actually never had like a set up meeting with my parents. It was never an argument. There was never fights. There was never hatred. There was never harm done to either of us. Mm-hmm. But we slowly started to drift apart. And I'll never forget the last day that I left her. I pulled out of the driveway with all of my stuff back to my car, and we hugged and said goodbye. And as I pulled around the corner, she's waving to me, and she's got tears streaming down her face. And I watched her disappear in the rearview mirror as I turned the corner. And I blame myself for that for a pretty long time. So I held on to that guilt for a very long time of abandoning this woman who I loved, but could not give all of my love to. Mm-hmm. And I truly hurt her and also hurt myself. And I hope to be ready to give my heart up again to someone else.
Like, where are you now, though? Like, do you feel like you're ready now to open yourself up?
I can only say I think that I am. So if I get to the end of this and it's with you, and I do get down on a knee and propose and we are engaged, I want it to be because that is 100% where my heart is at that time.
Do you feel like if you are at the end and you don't feel that way, that you wouldn't do it?
If I am having reservations and we're getting that far into it, I would let you know.
As I sit here with...
All right, so some intensity there. But I will say, we saw some real intense stories last night. Like, we heard about family drama. We heard about, like, intense broken relationships. This was not that. This is a guy going, one time me and this girl drifted apart. Like, wow. Like, I did not buy this story.
No, I totally buy it. I think it was completely genuine.
Well,
and I think
genuine, but boring.
But that's real.
Yeah.
People drift apart, they break up, and I think that emotion was completely real. And I think this is grooming him to be the next Bachelor.
Well, I totally agree with you, and we should talk about this at some point later in the show about how he could totally easily be the next Bachelor.
Yes.
And that's been a conspiracy theory on Twitter throughout this entire season. And we saw some of the tweets that you had curated because you're a social commentator
and
here.
I agree with one of those tweets completely, that it's totally normal that Peter's not sure if he wants to propose. I mean, they don't know each other that well. They've been on a few dates. They've never met each other's family or friends. They've never been to each other's homes.
Do you think sometimes the Bachelor or the Bachelorette ends up thinking like, well, you know, they're all here for me. They want to be here and get me. Like, they should want to marry me already, even though we've known each other for 4 weeks.
Right. I think Rachel was wrong here to be very confused that Peter wasn't ready and for that to make her hesitant, because I think that's more normal that Peter's being hesitant and he wants to take it slow. I mean, it's not usual that you propose to someone before you've been in an exclusive relationship.
Yeah, and we also saw some real intense moments with Dean and with Rachel, because Dean felt like he was there, but he was so conflicted about these hometown dates, and we'll talk a little bit more about hometown dates in a second. But right now, let's get to Rachel Scott. She is our fill-in correspondent. Joy Marie is also out on vacation, but Rachel, you are a first-year Bachelor fan right here, so you're getting to see all this. What have you been thinking this season and last night?
Hey Brad, hey Emily, yes. First time into this Bachelorette world for me. And I gotta say, I was a little nervous at first when I watched the very first episode. I didn't really know what to expect. I had seen probably about like 2 minutes of The Bachelorette a few seasons ago with a friend, and I was just like, I just don't know if I can relate to this. These people don't really seem real. But now, especially as we're getting more and more into the weeks, I feel like we're starting to see real issues come up. You're starting to get a feel for, I mean, these are people that I feel like I know and like have in my circle. Especially last night when we got into it with Eric and talking about, where he grew up in Baltimore. I was just thinking to myself, like, that is real. And I don't know, because I haven't watched previous seasons, if that has been shown before. But I will say, I feel like they did a really good job at, picking guys from diverse backgrounds, not only just ethnically, but also class. And so it's been really entertaining to watch. But yeah, I mean, it's been great. But yes, like I said, first season here, first time, but I'm also here with some other first-time watchers, these ladies who you guys are already familiar with because they've been on every week telling you what they've been thinking for a fresh take. So I want to get right into it, ladies. What did you guys think? What were your favorite moments from this episode?
My favorite moment was like Peter being like completely honest, and I just like those like turnkey points in a relationship where it's like it's a tough situation or conversation, but it's kind of like it kind of made them bond even closer afterwards.
Yeah. It looks like it's on the tip of your tongue. What do you want to say? She looks like she wants to say something.
Yeah, I like the dates with her and Peter. It's like fun. You can tell that they're really compatible, and there's love.
Yeah.
There's love, no matter what.
Okay, but whose connection would you say is the strongest out of everyone?
I mean, I always say that Bryan and her have the strongest connection, but I'm not really sure about how long that would last after the initial title has been the title has been put in place.
Yeah,
but
I feel
they
like
always seem like they're more comfortable around each other and they like get each other. But I like that this episode she really started to like ask the tough questions like, you're so perfect and I feel so safe and secure around you. Why are you still single? Because that is something that will pop up in your mind. You find this person and he's just like everything, and then you start to have those doubts. So I like that she started to ask those real questions.
Yeah. I like the fact that she started getting really deep with these guys now. Now that we're getting to the end, she really wants to know about these guys.
I feel with Bryan it's more chemistry and lust than love.
Yeah.
I feel with Peter there's more of an actual love connection. I feel like there's more of a foundation, like a deep-rooted foundation.
Right. Yeah. I think her and Peter are probably like at maturity and just like mentally they're at the same place in life where they might have gone through a heartbreak or two, they've recovered from it, they've prepared themselves, and now they're both just looking for that person that they're going to choose.
Even though I don't know if Peter's really recovered from that last.
Yeah, I know. We saw, you guys already talked about it, but Peter, as he's like saying goodbye to the woman that in the rear view mirror,
it's like those violins.
Yeah, you're like playing the little violin to yourself, like, oh my gosh. But it's true. Now we're getting to learn a lot more about Rachel, about these guys as well. What advice would you give to Rachel right now? I mean, I can only imagine being in her position, getting to know these guys, learning more about their relationships and families. It's getting down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah. I would take that extra time to like be with myself and my thoughts, journal, meditate, pray, like all of that. All of that.
All that stuff Beyonce's in Lemonade. All of that. No, but I would just say, that's a really good point. You just have to like really look into yourself because this is a gauntlet, right? Like you're rushing, trying to get this relationship. But if you just kind of listen to yourself and be still, it'll pop out at you. Like just watch out for the signs and make sure that you're not rushing into a situation that you might regret later on.
Yeah, I agree. Any lasting words for you?
Yeah, I think she's in a comfortable zone right now, and she's just feeling out the right choice right now. So, let's see what she's going to go with.
Definitely tough decisions ahead, I have to say. I've been rooting for Peter all along. From the very first time I saw him, I was like, he is going to win. He's going to become her husband. So we'll see. And we'll all be patiently waiting, figuring it out. We're excited for the next episode, Hometown, guys. Back to you guys in the studio, Brad and Emily.
Thank you, Rachel. I will say that I feel vindicated in that there are women out there who agree really good chemistry between Peter and Rachel, but also like your story's pretty vanilla. But
I mean, I agree that it's the lust between Rachel and Bryan that's going to win, because in this, it's a very constricted setting for this. I mean, so lust, that's kind of what you're going to follow, I think.
Lust is a good call. All right, so let's talk about the 3-on-1, because that was the, part one of the show was who she liked.
Right.
The next part was who she might be on the fence about, and this is where we saw, I thought, Eric's slow descent into madness. Every one-on-one date that came by, he'd go like, oh no, it's not me. What does that say about me? Hey guys, what do you think they're doing? Oh, what do you think they're doing on their date?
Yeah.
Am I good enough for the world? Like he drove himself crazy.
And he was definitely freaking out that he is now with two people who never had a one-on-one. And he's thinking that's pushing him into like the second tier category, Yeah.
Any surprise at all that Matt and Adam were the ones who ended up going home?
Of course not. Of course not. But I was really surprised that how emotional Rachel was sending Matt home. Because we've not seen any interaction between them all season. But, I mean, of course they had to have conversations for him to make it this far.
Look at it. This was on the way out. She had just said goodbye to him, and they're kissing on the lips.
There were a lot of tweets about how great Matt was. This one says Matt was a hidden gem of this season. I mean, I think that's true, but clearly the two of them didn't have a connection enough for producers to consider, showing the relationship this whole season.
And he was clearly also the hidden gem because he knew to just take his champagne with him on the way out.
Yes, that was a genius move. You're in France. I mean, this is some really nice champagne.
All of a sudden I was like, all right, Matt, you're my boy. I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. I really don't care, but you're my boy. And then you had Adam, who he seemed to think that he really had a shot with Rachel. He seemed to be saying, like, if she knows what's good for her.
Yeah, he said something about them having the strongest connection, but I'm not sure what would make him think that, considering he never got a one-on-one. But I like that he went into this date very confident. He was the one that took her onto the boat, had her hand, took her off the boat. He led the toast, which was the three of them with her and the champagne.
So I think he
had the confidence, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't there for them.
Yeah, all right. So let's talk about our picks then going forward. So we got 4 people left. They're going to hometowns. We can actually pull up our picks up on the screen from earlier this season, because on the Bachelor Forecast at abc.com, of course, you have to list your picks. And so, Emily, at this point, who do you think is going to take this all?
Bryan.
Yeah, you said the lust factor.
Yes, it's the lust factor. Bryan's going to win. I think she's giving him these subtle cues the whole time. So I disagree with you. They're your picks
that's
for
me.
Peter.
So I've been saying Peter and Eric. I still really think Eric brings the realness. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Bryan wins. Peter is the runner-up, and I think he's going to be the next Bachelor, and I think Eric is going to be third.
Well, so then let's take this then to go to No Way Rosé, who is definitely going home next week.
I vote Dean.
Why Dean? He had this moment where he said, like, I have my family, and this is not a traditional family, and I know that hometowns are going to be weird, and she still said, I'm going to pick you anyway.
Right. Well, I think she likes the idea of him, and so she's trying to make it work, but at the end of the day, he's too young for her. He's in his mid-20s, I just don't think they line up.
I put up a fight, but I actually agree with you. Dean would be my pick to go home as well, unless, and here's the thing, I know I have Peter winning, but I've got this nagging suspicion that Peter could go home before the final episode just because it seems like what you were saying, that he should be the next Bachelor. Who else could be the next Bachelor?
Right, but the perfect way to line him up to be the next Bachelor is he gets down on one knee, he's in love with Rachel, he proposes, and she picks Bryan. And because I've been following Twitter all season, America loves perfect Peter. Everyone loves everything about him.
And so to have him see him have his heart broken then, like a Nick Viall or like any of these other Bachelors, would be good. All right, well then, so that's I think a great look into Emily's crystal ball here. Let's take a look into the show's crystal ball. Let's take a look at promo power. Emily, what did you see happening here? Because we're going to hometowns.
I mean, I think hometowns show Rachel talks to Peter's mom a bit. We see that, and I think that what she says lines up with what Peter said about he might not be ready.
And that seems like throw Rachel through a loop that they're like, I don't know, like maybe I'm not going to marry you.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, they have to take their time with it.
And I mean, the big, I think, elephant in the room is going to be, well, we already heard from Eric about how he's like, I have family members who have been in jail. I've had family members who have been caught up in drugs. It's been like an intense life for me growing up, so it'll be interesting to see that household.
But I think Rachel likes that he overcame that.
For sure. Oh, and I think he was so honest about that, and then how he wants to pursue a relationship. I think it's going to be interesting. But the other family, of course, is Dean. He already mentioned that his dad had kind of detached as he had grown up, as his mother had died, and then the first thing we saw was Dean's dad in like a pink headscarf.
Right. I think there's just no way to predict what that's going to show.
Yeah.
I have no ideas.
It's really difficult. And Bryan, we know that once you see his family, apparently you break up with him. So that'll be an interesting thing.
I think that was looking even farther ahead. I think that was looking ahead to when Bryan meets her family. So that looked like to me.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, that is Emily Shapiro dutifully filling in her guest hosting role. We will have Mel Griffin back. Emily will still be monitoring all the social traffic, and it's only picking up from here. I'm Brad Milkey. That was Rachel Scott again, by the way. And from the entire Bachelor Forecast crew, we will see you guys next week. Happy batching.